Reviewing Everton 0, Tottenham Hotspur 3, Mark Donaldson and Stevie Nicol. Spurs up to third, 4 away wins and a draw with no defeats on their travels this season, Stevie. They seem to be a better team playing away from home right now and become the first side to beat Everton at their own new stadium. What did you make of Spurs' performance today?
I think you'd have to say they're very efficient, very organised, and basically get it done. I mean, it's nothing. There's nothing fancy about it. There's nothing flashy about it. There's certainly not the chaos, certainly that it was under Ange in terms of going forward and leaving gaps. I mean, pretty much the opposite. It's give nothing away and we'll go from there. I mean, you think of the front line. I mean, it's not a star-studded front line they've got, but I mean, they're joint top scorers in the Premier League. So, you know, you don't have to be open and chaotic in terms of the way you go forward in order to get goals. Because, as I said, they absolutely, they're just efficient. You know, there's Vicario made a couple of important saves at 2-0, to be honest. You know, because the crowd does get behind Everton, and had they got one back, then, you know, maybe the crowd, maybe the momentum could have put some pressure on Spurs. But Vicario's there to do his job as well as the back four, and they really do it efficiently.
The home-away split is pretty stark. I mean, they've scored 12 goals away from home and only conceded 3. Could there be an element of Spurs are better set up to exploit teams that maybe have a go against them when Spurs play away from home, and at home there's a lot of teams that just sit in and Spurs maybe find them harder to break down?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think at home, both Thomas Frank and the players feel as though they have to go forward, and that leaves some holes that they definitely don't do away from home. Away from home, you know, they're basically saying to anybody and everybody, right, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to come and beat us, because we're not going to help you. We're going to give you nothing, so you're going to have to push for it. And then they take advantage of the holes that the opposition leave. I think that's clearly what happens away from home. Just at home, they feel as though they're almost forced into trying to go forward when they don't really want to. I think that's the difference between the home form and the away form.
Opening goal after 19 minutes, the first of 2 from Mickey van de Ven. The best fantasy managers have benched him this week. It's a good set piece. It's a decent finish from Van de Ven. Mm-hmm. Positives from Spurs here, and negatives, please, from the way Everton defended this.
Well, the positive from Spurs is the delivery is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a crowded area. The delivery on both the set-piece goals is so good that it could have gone off an Everton head, never mind a Tottenham head. Yes, the first one is one of those situations that a set play that works perfectly. Ball to the back post, Betancourt comes late, heads it back across, and Van de Ven puts it in. I mean, it's what dreams are made up for all set-piece coaches. The second one is, in my opinion, mostly down to Pickford. You know, at the end of the day, the advantage Pickford has is he can use his arms. So he has to get to that ball before Van de Ven and doesn't do it. He just gets a little out-muscled, and then just because of the physique that Pickford is, he can't manoeuvre around anybody. He can't go through anybody. And if he doesn't get a clean attempt at something, then he's under pressure. So, yeah, today, Pickford lost the second goal, in my opinion, just because of he's not a 6'4" giant. He's not big and strong. He's more agile than anything else, and that went against him, and certainly today.
Okay, let's get your take. In the 27th minute, Everton thought they'd equalised. Ball comes in, Jake O'Brien puts it in, but after a lengthy inspection, VAR asked the referee, Craig Pawson, to come over. The reason they did here, there's 2 types of offside. There's a normal offside, which is Objective, was he or wasn't he? There's also a subjective offside, and that requires the referee to come over. The first one doesn't. Now, got the laws of the game in front of me here. Offside, interfering with an opponent. A player will be penalised if they're preventing an opponent from playing or being able to play the ball by clearly obstructing the opponent's line of vision, or challenging an opponent for the ball, or clearly attempting to play a ball which is close when this action impacts on an opponent, and finally making an obvious action which clearly impacts on the ability of an opponent to play the ball. This is the right call simply because two players, Ndiaye and Jack Grealish, are both in an offside position. They're not active until they make contact with the goalkeeper, which they both do. So that's the laws of the game perspective. Are we going too far with this, though? What do you make of that disallowed goal? Was it the right decision in your eyes? And how aggrieved should Everton feel?
Well, if they want to just look for something to complain about, then they can say that they weren't interfering. But if you can see clearly through both your eyes, then you can turn around and say, yes, VAR got this 100% right. And this again, we're also good at criticising VAR when on the face of it they get things wrong. Yeah. But when they get it absolutely spot on, because the referee clearly didn't see it in real time, I didn't see it in real time, and so VAR kicked in and absolutely did its job. Take your pick. Both Grealish and Ndiaye were definitely obstructing Vicario. Both of them were clearly offside, as you said, and so it's a great decision. The biggest conundrum is, why did it take so long? Because when the referee went to the monitor, they showed you an angle where O'Brien headed it and the two players were impeding the goalkeeper. It should have taken 2 seconds. How it took 5 minutes, I don't really know, but they got it right, and that's what VAR's for.
I'm going to take you back a couple of years ago, and it was annoying from you and I's perspective. Scotland were playing, and I think it was against Spain. Jack Hendry is in an offside position, and Scott McTominay scores a stunning goal. But because Hendry is in that position, and it's not a case of is he or is he not interfering with the goalkeeper's line of vision, there's contact there, and that's what makes the player active. So both Grealish and Ndiaye were active because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They were offside, and as you quite rightly said, the goal is chalked off. Okay, Van de Ven's second goal is just before halftime. In fact, it's in the added time that was added because of the VAR check for the Everton disallowed goal. As a defender, a former defender yourself, what makes him so difficult to pick up at set plays, and what makes him so good from a Spurs perspective in getting these goals?
Well, the thing about Van de Ven, what he does well is he reads the second ball. And, when there are so many bodies, when there's such a good delivery, as a defender, the object is to win the first header. If you win the first header, you clear it out, fantastic. But also from a defender's point, you have to be thinking about the second ball. Whether it's flicked on by the opposition, whether it's flicked on, because there are so many bodies in there, it can just be as easily flicked on by one of your own defenders. But you have to be on your toes, and you have to try and read the danger. The best defenders smell the danger, they read it just before it happens, and that means they can get in a position to affect it. Van de Ven does it from the opposite side. He's reading the flick on better than the defenders are. And so he puts himself in a position where he gets space on his own. He's absolutely there when the ball arrives, and then it makes it a simple header into the back of the net. So, a lot of football's about the second ball, and Van de Ven today certainly showed that if you read it, then good things can happen.
What more would you like to have seen from Everton in the second half at 2-0 down before they went 3-0 down?
I don't. Everton don't have MD up front. Let's be quite honest. Beto gives you everything he's got. He did make Vicario make a fantastic save from an overhead kick, but in all honesty, he's a workhorse. And then when Barry comes on for him, you're bringing on another workhorse, you know. And with Spurs being so organised and getting men behind the ball, it's tough for the wide men, particularly the likes of Grealish, to try and pick somebody out when there's not a lot of space. So yeah, I think for Everton in the transfer window, they have to get some forwards. They need to get somebody who's not just a workhorse, who actually has some quality, who can find positions in the box where the likes of Grealish can pick them out, and then obviously take the chance when it comes along. So yeah, I mean Everton. I don't think Everton's going to get relegated. They are organised. They got some flair in Grealish and in Dye. The biggest problem they have is they don't have a centre forward. They don't have anybody up front that looks as though they're going to score any goals. And that's where the problem is going to be. You know, the fact that they're competitive tells you that you know, relegation is not a possibility in my eyes. But certainly winning games is going to be tough for them, just because they don't have anything in the final third.
1 win in 7 since the end of August, 14th in the table. Should Everton fans be worried?
I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, there wasn't a huge gap between these two sides today. Tottenham are sitting in third and Everton in 14th. I'm not sure. You look at this result and you think 3-0. This wasn't an easy game for Spurs. Spurs absolutely earned the 3 points. And I think the 3-0 scoreline doesn't do Everton justice for actually some of the pressure that it put Spurs under. So, yeah, I don't think Everton fans should be worried. As I said, they should be worried with relegation. It's just they should be worried that they're not going to win consecutive games because they're going to struggle to score goals.
Yeah, I think we've seen at least 3 far worse teams than Everton this season. Yeah. But you know yourself, momentum's a huge thing in football. When you've got it, great. When you don't, 1 win in 7 since the end of August. Let's take a look at their next games. Away to Sunderland is next. Then home to Fulham, away to Man United, home to Newcastle, away to Bournemouth, home to Forest. These games are fine, but you're going to have to take the majority of points in those games. And you're going to have to start with making the stadium, their new one, a bit of a fortress again. But it's just 1 defeat, and it's not a bad thing if it's only 1 defeat right now. It's if that starts to continue that there's a problem. That's a good stadium for Everton to play. Great noise. Those games upcoming, any concerns that they might be in any bother with any of them?
I don't know. I think from an Everton point of view, you have to look at it and say that there's a possibility win 3 or 4 of these games. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be competitive. That's, you know, for Everton, that's all you can ask right now. Until they can change what they have going forward, then if they're competitive, then, you know, maybe they take an opportunity. Maybe things go their way. Maybe they get some luck on the other end. Maybe Pickford makes some saves. You know, I'm not looking at that run of games that you just threw up and said, oh my goodness, they're not going to get any points. I think they'll pick up some points along the way and in the course of those games. I'm certainly not telling you they're going to win 5 or 6 or 4 or 6. You know, they might win a couple and then they might get a draw somewhere, or they might get 3 draws. I mean, Everton are going to pick points up. It's just probably not going to be a regular 3 points that they pick up. And that is why I'm confident that relegation is not a factor. And right now, Everton right now, their only concern is about staying in the Premier League and consolidating under Moisey, and then starting to build, and then starting to try and be a consistent middle of the table team, and then try and build on that again, and then we start pushing forward, and then, you know, that to me is probably how Moyes and Everton are thinking. Get rid of all these relegation problems every season, stay up, get yourself solid, and then hopefully they can bring some money in and start buying some some quality, certainly up the top end of the field.
Those fixtures are pretty decent for Everton upcoming. But what about Spurs? Their next three: Chelsea at home, Man United at home, Arsenal away in the Premier League. Of those three games, 2 at home and 1 away, what would be a good points total, given that Spurs right now are up to third in the table?
I think you're going to lose one of them. So if you can get a win and a draw in the other two, I think you take 4 points out of the 9. Considering how poor they've been at home, so 2 home games and 1 away, take a win at home and a draw at home, and then lose away from home. I think you can accept that.
Just taking it back to the start when we were speaking about the difference between Spurs at home and Spurs away, and the teams going to Spurs and sitting in. Chelsea aren't going to do that. Man United aren't going to do that, you would think, as well. So
whoa there. Man United, calm down. Yeah,
they're back. They're back.
They're on a good run, but Manchester United going toe-to-toe with teams away from home. Man United's biggest problem is defensively. I mean, you look at them yesterday. You know, they end up a sigh of relief when Mbeumo puts the ball in the net to make it 4-2 in the 90th minute. You can see where Man United's problems are. So Man United, if you're Spurs, you hope Man United go there and try and go toe-to-toe and come at you. Because then United could be in trouble. So calm down.
Spurs just need to fix their home form. Just 1 win in 4 and 5 goals scored. Chelsea and Arsenal and Manchester United are their next 3 with that trip to Arsenal. Today, though, Mickey van de Ven at the double, and they got a late third goal as well to inflict Everton's first defeat at their brand new stadium. Good win for Spurs, and it takes them up to third. Bye for now.